In this video, you will learn the blockout and relief procedures in the construction of metal framework removable partial dentures. Before you begin, draw the outline of the areas that require relief and blockout on the master cast. Blocking out is the act of placing wax and other materials into undesirable undercuts on the master cast. Since the framework is waxed and cast on a duplicate of the master cast, undercuts that would prohibit the framework from going into place must be eliminated. Before the addition of the blockout wax, the maxillary cast is beaded. Beading is the act of scraping out a line of the major connector into the master cast. The bead line is approximately 0.5 mm deep and becomes less distinct as it approaches the gingival margin. The bead line produces a raised edge at the border of the major connector and ensures positive contact of the major connector with the palatal tissues. This feature reduces packing of food beneath the major connector. Bead lines are not used in conjunction with mandibular major connector because these connectors rest on thin gingival tissues that cannot tolerate the associated pressures. Blockout procedures are done using blockout wax. Most formulas employ a mixture of hard base plate wax, gattoperca, sticky wax, and a colorant for visual contrast against the dental cast. Wax is placed apical to the height of contour and is not applied in areas where intimate metal contact is desired. Wax that's inadvertently positioned occlusal or incisal to the height of contour must be removed, or it will add to the dimension of the refractory cast and result in a poorly fitting framework. During this stage of the procedure, a slight excess of blockout wax is placed into all undercut areas. In turn, definitive shaping of the blockout wax can begin. Blockout wax is contoured in a predetermined relation to the prescribed path of insertion. Excess wax is removed with a metallic blockout instrument and mounted in the dental surveyor. Normally, the surface of the blockout instrument is held perpendicular to the surveyor base. This results in a 0-degree blockout, or a blockout that is parallel with the path of insertion. All tooth-supported removable partial dentures should be blocked out parallel to the path of insertion. Tooth tissue supported removable partial dentures may be blocked out in a similar manner, or they may be given a tapered blockout to allow increased freedom of movement in function. Areas associated with the retentive clasp tips are critical to the success of the prostheses and warrant special consideration. Blockout wax can be shaped with a hand instrument to provide a slight ledge that is just apical to the clasp terminus. This ledge guides the placement of the wax plastic pattern and ensures that the clasp tip is accurately positioned in the desired undercut. In some instances, mechanical undercuts may be present where the body and shoulder of the clasp arm are to be placed. Since only the terminal third of the retentive clasp arm should be placed into an undercut, the body and shoulder areas commonly require blockout. Areas of undercut that are not directly involved with framework fabrication also must be addressed. These areas should be recontoured to minimize distortion that might occur during cast duplication. Duplicating material such as reversible hydrocolloid can rebound from relatively small undercuts, but distort or tear where larger undercuts are present. To prevent distortion and tearing, areas of gross undercut should be eliminated. Because these areas do not directly affect the framework construction, blockout can be somewhat arbitrary. Removable partial denture frameworks usually display intimate contact with the teeth and soft tissues. However, there are certain areas where contact is not desirable. In these areas, frameworks are shaped to stand away from the underlying tissues. This is accomplished by adding one or more wax spacers of known dimension to the master cast. Any addition of wax intended to make the framework stand away from the master cast is termed relief. In removable partial denture applications, relief is most commonly used in conjunction with denture bases. The retentive latticework or mesh must be raised above the edentulous area to allow resin to completely surround the longitudinal and the transverse struts. For practical purposes, 1 mm of space should be created between the strut and the surface of the cast. This allows the resin to encompass the latticework, thereby forming an effective mechanical attachment. In addition to serving as a spacer, one margin of the relief wax forms the internal finish line of the framework. It is essential that this finish line be sharply defined. A properly formed internal finish line permits the formation of a butt joint between the framework and the acrylic resin denture base. This allows a smooth transition from the metal to the resin and minimizes the likelihood of trauma to the adjacent soft tissues. As a general rule, the finish line should be placed 1.5 mm from the neighboring abutment or abutments. This distance ensures that the porous resin will not contact the marginal gingiva. One thickness of wax makes an ideal relief pad for latticework and mesh components. The base plate wax is softened over a flame and placed on the corresponding areas of the cast. The wax is then luted in position with a hot spatula. This prevents lifting or displacement of the relief wax during cast duplication. Special wax sheets with adhesive on one side are also available to facilitate the process. After the relief wax is firmly attached to the cast, it's trimmed with a sharp instrument. The instrument must be held at 90 degrees to the surface of the cast so that the internal finish line of the cast will be sharp and the resin will meet the metal at the right angle. Then, a 2 by 2 mm section is removed at the prescribed location in the fray and saddle area of the cast stop. Again, the blade is held at 90 degrees to the cast.